adding LEDs. It depends on the day.
I never put them
This
on the
looks so
arms.
cool.
I don't put them out on the arms. I usually put them in the.
It's just all the extra wires for me.
Well, I'd only use a strobe that's visible for 3 nautical miles.
That's only if you fly at night. I'm talking about daylight operations here. And also, that's also only for 107. That's not 44809.
I understand that.
Let's see. All right. Well, I guess it's just the 5 of us this evening, and that's fine. Not only do we do this for the live, but we also do it for YouTube and podcasting. So, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. For those of you who are just tuning in, or maybe for the first time, I'm Josh, or Cujo. We've got Dave, we've got Alex, and we've got Dan with us this evening. I do have a couple interesting articles to cover this evening. First off, or first up, comes from actually my hometown. Get my screen sharing up and going here. There we go. And I'll go ahead and link that article. So the Phoenix Fire Department has added 3 Skydio X2s to the department, and they are currently in training. There are currently 10 trained pilots, and they're looking to train more. But they're using the Skydio X2, which is kind of a stripped down yet kind of more capable version of the of the Skydio 2. And it's purpose built for this industry. The one they're using has a 4K color camera and can be equipped with FLIR thermal camera, which the Phoenix Fire Department has equipped it with the FLIR. Obviously, a super useful tool for the fire department. It can be flown as far as 10 kilometers away, which could prove extremely useful for both search and rescue and brush fire incidents, which is something that the Phoenix Fire Department absolutely does on a routine basis. Phoenix and Arizona in general is a big hiking center, and more often than not, there seems to be hikers that get stuck on the side of Piestewa Peak. And a lot of times they're pulling out helicopters to go find these folks out in the middle of the desert. So giving these tools to the Phoenix Fire Department is a great idea, and also goes along with using drones for good. The FLIR will enable them to identify hot spots in a structure fire, and where they need to direct or tell their officers to stay away from, depending on the danger of the particular structure fire. So super cool that they're doing this, and they're definitely looking to train more officers as time progresses. So pretty cool. Let's see. Next up, we've got the Army's Zephyr drone.
40 days straight. Yikes.
40 days, yes. And this is designed by Airbus, I believe. And it took off. Huh?
I just do. I like Boeing. I'm a Boeing person.
All right.
Airbus, that's from Europe, right? Not American?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this is a lightweight UAS. It's got an 82-foot wingspan. And on June 15th, it took off from the Yuma Proving Ground down here in Arizona, assisted by a handful of people who had to hand launch it from the runway.
So like a bunch of people lining up on the wings, holding it so it doesn't fall apart?
Like Flight Fest.
Well, I think part of it is it doesn't have, from what I can tell, it doesn't exactly have landing gear.
Sure.
So
that's why you use a golf cart like Flight Fest.
Yeah, I was about to say this is very reminiscent of some of the takeoffs we saw at Flight Fest. but it has been going continuously for 40 days, and as far as we know, it's still up there. Its previous record was a 26-day record. Let's see. The Airbus-made drone is solar powered, designed to fly in the stratosphere and operate off just a tiny bit of electricity. In an October 2021 Army release, it noted that the power needs are the same as a single commercial light bulb. Zephyr has flown for long periods of time previously. It flew for 2 weeks in 2010 and then carried out its then record-breaking 26-day flight, which is actually 25 days, 23 hours, and 57 minutes in 2018. And now has been up for over 40 days.
I hope they've gotten their BV loss waiver for that thing. Or somebody standing on the ground for 40 days watching it.
And nights with the 3 statute mile visible lights.
That's right. Yeah.
But does it weigh over 55 pounds?
Ooh.
Good question.
That's I don't know.
It's big, but it might not be that heavy.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why it's like one of those things where it could be considered a small UAS.
So your 3 statute mile doesn't really do a whole lot for you, Alex, because it flies higher than 60,000.
I know.
So a little bit over the 400-foot limit.
Yeah, just maybe a smidge. But
so they got a waiver
cool.
for that one too.
Yeah, and I mean the cool thing is this is, I imagine they call them the ultralights model aircraft, where they're just like that thin plastic or whatnot, and they just fly around indoors, rubber band power.
Yeah.
Very much, I imagine, designed after one of those. So pretty cool.
It's not like they have a TFR in an area for 2 months for this thing to be flying around, do they? Or
well, I mean,
it could just be using a DoD test site.
Yeah, it's the Army, so they can kind of just do what they want.
Sure.
And it's probably, I mean, the the Yuma Proving Grounds is, I mean, it's a
probably
restricted airspace.
Yeah.
So they can
go 60,000 and play.
Let's go digging in here. Let's pull up some UAS facility maps here. Go down to Yuma here.
You should just drive over there and see if you can spot it with some binoculars.
So yeah, there's the USMC Air Station.
Quite a bit of restricted airspace
proving
there.
Grounds. This might be the proving grounds here. It's not even giving me what it is. So yeah, there's quite a bit of restricted area there. So, anywho,
just flying in circles.
Probably. All right, this is another drones for good kind of situation. This happened actually in Spain. This is a drone lifeguard, or a lifeguard drone, I should say.
I think I saw part of this video.
Yeah, it helped save a 14-year-old boy who was at risk of drowning in Spain. While swimming in the water off the coast of Valencia, the boy got caught in a tide off the beach. In a moment captured on video, a drone dropped a life vest into the sea as the boy struggled to stay afloat. Soon after the delivery, a physical lifeguard team arrived to rescue the boy from the water. The drone was operated by pilot from General Drones, a company that supplies drones for rescue and emergency services. When we arrived, what we saw was a kid that was in very bad shape with almost no energy to keep floating, so I sent over the life vest. Miguel Pedrero, a drone pilot for the company, told Reuters. Because of the heavy waves, it was a complicated maneuver, but we finally managed to give him the vest, and he could float until the lifeguards reached him by jet ski. He was taken to a local hospital and sent home the next day. So,
a little surprised that the drone and drone pilot could get there faster than someone could unload a jet ski and get to him. But
well, I mean, if it's on standby and ready to go, I imagine it's a pretty quick spool up and launch. But it also depends on how far out the boy was and how far out the tide carried him.
The wave conditions, because then the jet ski has to go through those waves too.
Well, so yeah, and it also seems like it says here the outlet reported that more than 30 general drone pilots are working with lifeguards at 22 beaches in Spain.
Okay,
So
so they
they
may just
might
be
be
there
on
all the
standby,
time.
ready to go. Yeah. So, just really, really cool
that just brings one weird thing to my mind about like lipo batteries and keeping them sitting around fully charged all the
See
time.
Oh yeah.
So are
So you
they?
just have batteries rotating.
Yeah, they're always they're fully charged for a little while and then discharge them if they don't use them.
But
have
I
3
mean,
batteries and rotate them.
I mean, look at it from this perspective. I mean, a boy's life saved versus the cost of a lipo battery, right? So,
yeah, it's no big deal. It's just like,
they have to use lipos for that.
What's that?
Yeah, they might not even be using lipos. It could be something else.
Yeah, they could be using a different chemistry.
Yeah.
Like Life Epo 4 maybe.
So definitely cool. Something we love to see with the use of drones for great reason.
Did they not have the video linked from there showing like dropping the?
Not on this one.
Video before.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I definitely ran across it just in my random daily scrolling through Reddit or something, and
cool video.
Yeah, it looked like that dropping the. And of course, the only thing I'm thinking is, well, what if he just grabbed it? Wouldn't he pull the drone right down into the ocean? But I assume they've got quick release or it would disconnect or something.
All right, we'll pause through the ad here.
But it was pretty cool if they can help save people from drowning like that.
Absolutely.
And you're not putting anybody else's life at risk at all to get out there or anything?
We've got a lot of work to do.
Quiet. Big props.
Yeah, this is the part that I saw, just the dangling of the life jacket.
Well, what would be neat though too is if the aircraft could also float really well, and so the aircraft could just drop down itself too and land in the water safely.
What if like the aircraft was also a jet ski? It just lands in the water, then yeah, it can drive them back to shore.
Yeah. But I wonder if they have waivers to fly over people, but it's Spain, so they probably have a different system.
Yeah, I would imagine. Cool. All right, let's see. Stuff down here. All right, so I covered this a little while back. So lawmakers, Biden, and Sports League press for new action on drone threats. Lawmakers and U.S. Sports League on Thursday backed a bid by White House for expanded powers from Congress to detect and disable threatening drones. Congress in 2018 expanded authority of the Justice Department and the Department of Homeland Security to disable or destroy threatening drones, which are formally known
Did Josh freeze for you guys too?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're formally known as something.
Cliffhanger.
Muted. I don't think he knows it.
No, I think his video looks frozen too.
Yeah.
So I wonder if his internet provider
just
just.
Internet issue.
I thought it was me. So.
Yeah, everybody else was
Sorry.
quiet, so
Transferring
I
your
thought it was
problems.
maybe me too.
Yeah. And then I saw you guys moving.
Yep, he's definitely still frozen there. Oh,
Oh,
and now
there
I lost
goes
his
that.
screen share and he got disconnected.
Whoop-de-doo.
So Discord noticed that he lost his connection.
Yeah, he went all the way down.
Conspiracy theorists are going to say, well, he mentioned
The man.
the administration
Oh,
there.
A man is after him.
took his internet out just like that. Well, while we're waiting for Dave to come back, or not Dave, gosh. While we're waiting for Josh to come back, Dave's here. Dave's fine. Maybe Dave has something that we could talk about. You have any news for us?
Today, in the news is that the Senate passed a semiconductor, and this has been in the both houses of Congress for over a year. It did start as the CHIPS bill about a year ago. It's now passed the Senate. And they're in conference, and they're anticipating a sign by the president, a signature by the president, hopefully by the end of this week. This is near and dear to my heart because this has to do with bringing onshoring manufacturing of semiconductors. So that's a good thing.
Do you know if Bernie's amendment got added to that?
The EU, China, Taiwan, and Korea all subsidize their semiconductor manufacturers. So very positive for us.
Dave, did you hear Meat's question
Alex,
there?
Are you still there, or did I freeze?
I don't think Dave can hear us.
Oh no, I don't think you can either.
Oh, no.
Can you hear us, Dave?
We're all falling apart. What's happening?
I was curious about the amendment because
Did you
Bernie
hit mute on your mic
amendment
again?
in there that was going to make it so the chip manufacturers
well, I
had
guess-
to use it to build manufacturing and not use it for stock buybacks.
Yeah, I heard something about that too, but I don't know how it ended up.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was hoping that Dave might.
What was your question, Meat? I'm sorry.
So Dave was talking about the semiconductor stuff that's going on with the
chip spill?
Yeah, the chip spill. And then I think, Meat, you can explain your question further.
Yeah, the Bernie wanted the bill to contain some language that would make it so the chip manufacturers had to actually build out manufacturing in the U.S. and not just use the funding for stock buybacks and stuff like that.
Oh, gotcha.
I wasn't sure if that actually made it into the language of the final bill or not. I was curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
What do you mean,
Yeah,
actually
no.
force like somebody getting some stimulus money to spend it on what they're supposed to spend it on?
Yeah,
That would be
yeah, no.
crazy.
It's always a good time to try new things.
It's always one of us popping in and out.
Yeah, you can't get 4 people to have technology all work at the same time. That's
I don't
just...
even know what happened to mine. It just dropped out. It's
Yeah, on
really
our end,
bizarre.
you just ghosted. It was just poof, you were gone.
I know. I was like
It-
in the middle of it. It's just like, nope.
You were saying something like formerly known as, and then just
Formerly
left
known
us
as
hanging.
Josh.
And you were still here. You were just frozen. Like yeah. And then it took Discord a while to kick you out.
We were all sitting here quiet and still, and we thought we all froze.
Yep.
Oh, technical issues. Are you back with us, Dave?
Yes.
Hey, and he can even
There
hear
we
us
go.
now.
Wait, is it the speakers or is it the actual ears themselves? Was the issue?
No.
Old age.
No. It wasn't.
Wow.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
So,
That's where you were headed.
Dave, you might be a little better rehearse on this one. Stormin 13 asks, what are your thoughts on the right-of-way rules proposed in the BV Loss pending NPRM?
And he is not on the voice chat.
No, he's not.
He's probably watching on YouTube.
He
Yeah.
might be, yeah.
So I've cleverly eliminated my screen of the chat. Could you read that one again?
Yeah, that's fine. What are your thoughts on the right-of-way rules proposed in the BV Loss pending NPRM?
Okay.
Well, it's not really a
I
BV
haven't-
loss pending NPRM, but maybe they're talking about the
BV Loss ARC?
ARC report.
Yeah, the ARC report.
Yeah.
There's a couple places that were calling it an NPRM though. I saw a
Yeah.
couple people advertising it as an NPRM and the comments saying, no, don't do the right away thing from a couple of aviation side of things.
So to me, yeah, Alex is absolutely right. Is that it's we're probably 2 to 3 years away from a notice to public rulemaking, and then another year or so. It maybe we'll get some short-term changes in BV loss, which certainly were also part of the recommendations. That could happen as soon as a year from now. With respect to right away, to me, some of the biggest breakthroughs where there's a start of sharing responsibility, and so the notion of it's not 100% the UAS responsibility to detect and avoid is something that we pushed very hard on. In addition, the reason I was hesitating is we wrote a 100-page chapter submission that got deleted, much to our chagrin, in as much as it was committed no fewer than 5 times by the leaders that it would be published unabridged, and then it was left out. And so there was a great deal of discussion in the section that that was left out on right of way, and we spent, well, it was 6 people in 8 meetings, that many, and at least each meeting at least an hour long. So that's how many hours we spent discussing right of way. So some of this got in to the report, and a lot did not. So there's right of way that did get in with respect to aided or extended BV loss, and so the notion that let's keep just an extension of Part 107, and with the existing remote ID UAS, and that would be a fine set of training as well as aircraft equipment to satisfy a near-in beyond visual line of sight, to satisfy things like I just went behind a tree. I'm inspecting underneath a bridge that's 20 feet away from me. So I think a lot of the recommendations are great, and they are varied. Welcome any specific questions. I'm stumbling a bit because this is it's an important point, and it's also it was covered extensively in our work on autonomous flight rules in that subgroup 2.5.
So one of the things that I seem to remember being a point of discussion within the final report was kind of shielded operations and right away within shielded operations, right? So if you were within, and I'm just referencing Volatronics, and he kind of reminded me within 100 feet of a structure, and I don't think it's 500 feet high. I think they limited that for the final report.
Yeah, might have been
correct.
Might have been 500. Might be right. Might have been the 400 plus 100 above. Sounds like good reading on the, and it is 100 feet lateral.
Yeah.
We pressed for 400 feet lateral to be consistent with the New Zealand shielded operations. That was opposed roundly by the helicopter community. They felt that 400 feet was an issue, and that they have rescue, public safety helicopters flying inside 400 feet, but not 100 feet around shielded operations. So certainly we had put shielded operations into an earlier Drone Advisory Committee, now AAAC tasking group, that got agreed to and had some assure funding by the FAA, and then shielded operations became, as you've seen, a significant component of the BV loss arc, and so we were very happy to see that as incorporated in the final recommendations.
So I don't know if you guys have been watching the BV loss listening sessions that the FAA has been doing. There was another one yesterday, I think.
Yeah, it'll work. I need to catch up on it.
And predictably, a lot of the complaints are around manned aircraft giving right of way to unmanned aircraft in those situations.
Yeah, and I mean, it needs to come to almost a shared responsibility kind of situation. And I don't have. I mean, I've always yielded right away. In any situation, whether I was above the trees or below the trees, it's always safer from my perspective to just drop it. And but at the same time, situations happen. So
Yeah, and then also the complaining about requiring ADS-B in all aircraft that are flying in those situations as well. And the one from yesterday, they were talking a lot about. I think it's not actually legal for them to do so in some cases, like hot air balloons. I don't know the rules. It's just one of the people that was representing the hot air balloon pilots was saying that they are not allowed to use ADS-B because they're not a powered aircraft. And so it's against the ADS-B rules to have a device like that and announce themselves. So the FAA clearly will have a lot of things to think about there.
Yeah,
they're screwing with other groups too.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is. So like the is it the ultralights or the paragliders?
Yeah, paragliders.
Same situation there. Who knows? I mean, they may, fall into something similar like UAS and have some semblance of remote ID required.
So, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the yielding right away for manned aircraft that do not have, it's for manned aircraft that don't have ADS-B,
Exactly
and
right.
for drones that have remote ID though, because if you don't have remote ID, you always have to yield right away, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So basically another way to look at it is drones are sending out their position and location, and other aircraft that aren't sending it out have to yield the right of way generally.
That's correct. Within the shielded area.
How I understand it, at least.
Yep.
There's also currently no requirement for aircraft to have remote ID detection systems installed. So
it was talked about though.
It was,
the Advanced Aviation Advisory
Committee. And the AC, and that's contained, I think, in TG11, which was punted 10.
11.
What, 10?
One of those
11.
two.
It was punted over to the drone safety team, and the drone safety team has declined to work on this from the FAA. So we're in a do loop between the Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee and the drone safety team.
That's a good way for somebody to get something not worked on that they don't want worked on.
Right?
Exactly.
No, you do it.
Right.
No, you do it. We're not going to do it. And then
No.
it just dies.
It's outside of our scope. That's right. Oh, it's not my remit. Sorry.
All right, so let me pick back up. Hopefully we answered everybody's questions on that. Let me pick back up where I so rudely got kicked off. I was about to question the CIA here in a second, so maybe that's why they kicked me off. So we'll do a repeat and see what happens here. So the Biden administration wants to extend drone detection and destruction powers to agencies like the CIA and State Department to protect U.S. facilities, as officials say drones are costing millions of dollars in delays at U.S. airports. So, correct me if I'm wrong. It is not within the CIA's charter to operate on native soil, on U.S. soil. I am correct in that, yes? Yeah, so that's a little odd. Just saying.
They've got a lot.
That'd be Homeland Security, though.
Yeah, I was going to say they reach over to Homeland Security, and that's where most of the communication from most of the security agencies to the FAA comes from.
Right.
How would you like to have your title be? Hey, I work with Homeland Security, and I'm the drone destruction person. Drone destructor.
I think they would call it the Homeland Security Counter UAS.
Counter UAS
liaison.
I don't know. The drone destroyer would be better.
Quad cop.
Or maybe we just
Quad cop.
We'll name that person Megatron. All right. So anyway, Senator Gary Peters, a Democrat who chairs the Homeland Security Committee, said at a hearing on Thursday he plans to release proposed legislation in the coming weeks to extend existing authority and strengthen counter-UAS authorities to better tackle this threat. On Thursday, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NCAA, and NASCAR sent a joint letter to Congress backing the Biden administration proposal, saying expansion of drone authority will play an important role in helping to ensure the safety of major sporting events, including the safety of millions of American fans who attend these events each year. Deputy Assistant Attorney General Brad Wegman told the Senate on Thursday that outdoor mass gatherings like open-air sports stadiums are particularly vulnerable to drone attack.
It's an attack or is it an intrusion that generally happens, where they're
just
trying to watch the game without having to get in.
That's more
it
likely what
depends.
has happened, but they're imagining scenarios where it's actually going to do something harmful.
Right. Mass gatherings, have always been an opportunity for people who want to come to mass. I mean, look at places like the Boston Marathon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're imagining like you take one of those DJI crop dusters and you fly it over filled with some sort of chemicals, and who knows what'll happen.
The White House wants to extend powers to detect and destroy or disable threatening drones to the TSA for airports and the U.S. Marshal Service for prisoner transports. DHS official Samantha Vinograd said TSA since 2021 has reported nearly 2,000 drone sightings near U.S. airports, including incursions at major airports nearly every day. She added that since 2019, drone incidents have caused U.S. airports to fully halt operations 3 times, and in 2021, over 30 partial suspensions of operation, resulting in millions of dollars of economic damage.
I don't feel like we've heard of that many of them, but
I sure haven't.
Reading between the lines, there's also something positive here. I always try to find the little pony in the manure. And the positive on this one is I'll bet there were attorneys looking at this and saying, we need to keep this within federal public safety personnel. That's what they've done. So it's marshals, it's TSA, federal agents. And that, to me, from a perspective of the laws the bills that we've seen put forward by Senator Lee from Utah, where he'd rather see a states' rights view. This supports the current FAA preemption view, which certainly we support, in that it would be far easier to work with a single government and remote ID as opposed to 50 governments who are trying to do things like set up boundaries and taxes and fees for landing, etc. So that's the positive that I see in that one.
This next paragraph talks about extending it to the authority to current state and local law enforcement officials.
Malo.
You were one paragraph too early there, Dave.
Yeah, go back, delete everything I said.
You want a different thing to look at? The 2,000 drone sightings are not confirmed drone sightings, because anyone can report a drone sighting. Most of the time, it's probably a plastic bag, and that's what it generally has usually been, because it's also been found out that you can't tell if it's really a drone if you're a pilot. It's very difficult to actually tell if it's a drone or not. And even on the ground, depending at the height where it would be interfering, it's also hard to tell. So
yeah,
we all know how hard it is to track a drone with your eyes. It's nearly
yeah. I mean, depending on
that 2,000 drone sightings is higher than that's a overestimated number than underestimated.
And still, none of them have taken an airplane out.
Well, there's been a couple incidents where there have been
strikes,
collisions.
but not.
Well, it hasn't caused any crashes.
Correct, or fatalities.
Yeah, Jay Merkel uses a number of 6 over the last 5 years, and these are.
I believe there were 7
or
I thought there were 8. 7 or 8.
8 confirmed collisions.
Yeah, and then there are about 6 others that are unconfirmed but probable.
So, I mean, and here's the thing, and this is something we've been combating for a long time, is this overestimation, right? So, a lot of times, I mean, number one, news article sensationalism, big numbers make it look scary, that kind of stuff. It's what generates clicks. So, but yeah, it's
Well, you
definitely.
can also use small numbers to make the government look stupid. You're
So,
they're trying to do this for 130 incidents.
right, and so I mean, it's just it's definitely
hundreds of
interesting.
thousands of
You could go
millions
either
of
way
flights.
with it, right? So
Millions of flights, but 130 incidents are causing this issue.
right. So and keep in mind, a lot of safety security measures are not what has happened, but the probability of what could.
How many
So
birds hit planes?
A lot.
More than that, probably.
Yeah, definitely more so. So let's see.
So this is saying that this is something that they want to do, but there's not been anything released yet, right?
Yeah. So and to Volatronic's point, there's a good reason why bad guys don't use drones against airplanes. It's really difficult, and this is it's a funny you make that point, and I think we talked about this last time. But at Flight Fest, there would be anywhere from 20 to 120 planes in the air all at once, with the sole purpose of taking each other out. It's combat. And the amount of time spent where nothing happened, where no plane hit another plane, was insane. So much so that it's much to Volatronic's point here, is that it's really hard. So and he comes back with, there have been about 227,000 wildlife strikes with civil aircraft in the USA between 1990 and 2019. So that's a lot. That's a lot compared to 8 drone strikes, right? So at any rate, we'll be likely seeing some type of legislation in the near future. To be honest, I was fine with the limited authority that was present for just FBI and Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security that has existed for since 2008. Or sorry, 2018. Let me get my years right. But now they seem to be expanding that out a little. So let's see, measuring growth milestones at Aloft Technologies. So Aloft is obviously a Lance provider, and they've come out with some numbers. Let's see, Aloft recorded 500,000 Lance authorizations since the inception of Lance, including a record June where total authorizations grew 58% year over year, and commercial airspace authorizations grew 102% year over year. On the Before You Fly app, record usage and adoption resulted in crossing 20 million airspace searches all time. In addition, the Aloft UTM data network surpassed 1 million monthly airspace events in June, while seeing 300% quarter-over-quarter commercial revenue growth, marking the largest expansion of the platform in company history. Let's see.
Does it mention how many users they have? Because
Let's
I'd be curious to see how that compares to what the FAA says are registered pilots.
So actually, it might be in one of these other articles I've got. They're estimating 800,000 current registered UAS pilots from the FAA.
For recreational. Because that's just a recreational number, I believe.
No, that's all registered.
I thought it was
the 2019 FAA Administrator's Fact Book had 1.2 million recreational and approximately 800,000 Part 107. They have subsequently quietly tried to.
I didn't think it was 800,000 for 107. That seems too high.
Came up to 2 million
like
total.
Almost 1% or something? No, like 0.3% of the population with 107?
Let's see. It doesn't have anything in this particular article.
Just be interesting to see exactly how big of a group we actually are.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and I would posit that a lot of there may be a lot, and I'm going to speculate. There may be a lot of drone pilots who didn't re-up their registration after the first time. A lot of that revolving around regulations relating to remote ID. So,
and you can use Aloft to get Lance authorization and without having any you don't have to put in your registration information or anything.
No. And keep in mind that's also Aloft is one of several different Lance providers.
Yep.
And we should mention that we like Aloft, and this is
absolutely.
if we are asked, so what Lance provider would you recommend? Certainly, I always say Aloft.
What I use.
Aloft is free for recreational users, and as a
commercial.
company, they are. Check that, Alex.
What?
You can do some things free for with Part 107, but you have to pay for advanced features.
I get my Lance authorization. I use my Lance authorizations for commercial flights all the time.
Okay. And so the people who work at and run Aloft support recreational, and we certainly support them.
Yep. All right. So new research. This will rub Dave a little bit the wrong way. New research recommends streamlining regulations to enable drone operations in the U.S. Excuse me. New research from George Mason University's Mercatus Center indicates the need for states to create and manage drone routes in order to enable growth of the commercial drone industry in the U.S. The research paper, authored by senior research fellow Brent Skorup, also features a ranking system that compares the drone readiness of each state. Oklahoma ranks as the most prepared for commercial drone services, followed by North Dakota, Arkansas, Arizona, and Minnesota. 3 states tied for last place as the least prepared to enable urban air mobility: Nebraska, Rhode Island, and Mississippi. Scorup's rating of states for commercial drone services includes 6 factors: airspace lease law, aviation easement law, task force or program office, law vesting landowners with air rights, and sandbox availability and jobs estimate. The drone industry needs to work with local regulators and landowners in a way that the conventional aviation industry hasn't had to, Skorup explained in an interview with Avionics International. While noise concerns have existed for a long time, with conventional aircraft, these concerns are only an issue for residents living next to an airport or heliport. In contrast, unmanned aircraft systems fly at low altitudes and could be targeted by trespassing or nuisance lawsuits. Skorup had the idea that enabling drones to fly above public roadways would eliminate most of these issues. Roadways are already dedicated for transportation. They're fairly noisy and handle a lot of logistics. Establishing drone corridors above public roadways at low altitudes is a fairly simple and elegant way to open up millions of miles of these corridors. I just have thoughts of something going wrong. A drone falling on a car in the middle of the highway.
Or all the drivers distracted looking up at the drones.
Right.
And there's and the FAA already has routes across the skies for normal aviation.
Yeah. But I mean, keep in mind low altitude versus full altitude. So, let's see. Scorup's research includes the suggestion that establishing many more designated places for testing new drone technologies would allow companies to more effectively demonstrate their products to regulators and investors. These places, referred to as sandboxes, could be underused airports or rural airspace. It's important in this industry to show proof of concept and to have something to show investors and regulators, not just business plans. Even though drone technology is fairly advanced, it's difficult for companies to make a business case while depending on one-off waivers from the FAA. There are a lot of pilot programs in the U.S. for drones, such as ziplines. Zipline recently received its Part 135 air carrier certificate from the FAA and has been performing drone flights in Arkansas under the FAA's Part 107 rule since last year. I would go so far as to say is the FAA needs to completely revamp its waiver process, 100%, because they're still on a Alex, how it's what 90 day?
Yeah.
That's insane. It needs to be like
90
48
days.
hours. Like,
that was another point that people brought up quite a few times in the BV loss listening sessions with the FAAs. How hard it is to get the waivers currently for BV loss, and how it should be so much better, and that it needs to be better even before they come up with more BV loss rules, because it's going to take them a long time to get there, and they need something done much faster.
and how? Absolutely.
Well,
Especially
about Amazon and how hard of a time these huge companies are getting their foot in the door of this kind of stuff. Like, it's just super.
Well, they also drone delivery also is under Part 135 air carrier operation. So you're basically making a whole airline at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a lot of complaints coming from people like search and rescue and fire departments and emergency services.
They have tactical BV loss, which is a much faster method.
They're saying they have some BV loss waivers, but not enough of them. Like, they've been doing lots of operations, but there's a lot of operations they're not allowed to do because they don't have a waiver for this, or this group doesn't have one, and things like that. Or they gave an example, I think, where they were the police or somebody had a drone in the air. They were following a suspect who had shot somebody, and then they got to the end of their line of sight and had to stop and let them go because they didn't have a BV loss waiver to keep following them.
Well, in that case, they should have been able to get a tactical BV loss waiver, because that does exist, and it's a phone call that you do. It's a lot it's supposed to be one of those where you set it up with your department, and then you can make a phone call to activate it for a period of time, and then it deactivate. Then when you're done with the flight, you call them back, let them know that you're done, and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And submit some sort of report, I believe. I don't remember all the details, but from my understanding of the tactical BV loss waivers for first responders and such, that is an option for them that they just might not have known about.
Sure.
Well, I think part of it is, and this is my thing, is in the moments it takes to make a phone call, I mean, a life could be lost. So, I mean, it needs to be a more efficient process. If it's I don't know. I'm two ways with law enforcement utilizing drones. I mean, in some circumstances I see the benefit, in others I see a breach of privacy, right? So, but at the same time, I almost feel like in circumstances where somebody's life could be in danger, it's a ask for forgiveness later kind of situation. But I think all around the waiver process, it needs to be revamped. I think the FAA is pseudo combative with approving waivers, and almost infinitely unhelpful. And to be able to kind of formulate a waiver in the correct way that they need to see fit is a laborious process that could take a year or two. I mean, if they're waiting 90 days to approve your waivers, right? So that gives you an opportunity to submit 4 separate waivers a year. That's insane to try and get it right. So that's a hill I'm going to die on with the waiver process. It's stupid and it needs to be fixed. But anyway, that's my take on it. So
with this list, I'm surprised Pennsylvania is so low. I would have expected Pennsylvania to be higher with some of the stuff that I've been seeing going on in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I was confused about Michigan too, because we have preemption, like the only here that and we have a special thing set up with Canada where we're testing drone deliveries and crap. So I'm guessing that this is probably older.
It might be. I'm not.
That he just got done with it now, but like his research and stuff was probably done a couple of years ago or something.
It could be. Because Arizona, I mean, definitely has preemption, and it's
surprised with New Jersey a little bit. That's a little higher than I thought it would have been.
Yeah,
I would have expected New Jersey to be a little lower.
So let's see. In spite of the challenges, we'll wrap this up. In spite of the challenges that drone companies and regulators are facing, SCORT believes that the regulatory framework for drone operations in the U.S. compares favorably to those in other countries. He says, from what I can tell, most countries and national regulators are looking to the U.S. for leadership and follow closely to what happens here. David is shaking his head emphatically.
Yeah, no.
You just like it, right?
Why did Google Wing go to Australia to test their product? Because
Right.
the FAA was so difficult. Why is the FAA flying people over to Europe to read the soon-to-be in-place remote ID regulations? Yeah, ICAO is far ahead, and Australia and New Zealand are ahead of the United States. So, yeah, nobody's looking at the FAA for leadership.
Yeah, we're never going to be first in anything as long as we have these rules that are so restrictive.
All right. And
they just need to get rid of the rules for a time period until they can come up with proper rules.
Be interesting.
Back to the Wild West, right? Yeah, it's very the pace. I think one of the things is I'm constantly, and I think we as a group are constantly frustrated with the pace of things coming from the FAA. This is something when it comes to a technology as useful, as pervasive, as UAS and drones and whatever you want to call them. The usefulness of these units, whether it's from a STEM point or from a firefighting point or from an agriculture point, these are the things that can reshape the way that America does things in a positive way, and as well as ease burden on agencies that rely on things like helicopters and planes to do things that UAS can easily take over. And the fact that we move at a snail's pace to get this squared away is insane.
Well, it's even worse than that. It's like moving really, really slow and very quietly, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of stuff, and then silence and moving not at all again, and then all of a sudden a bunch more releases. It's so weird.
And honestly, at this point, I would expect next to nothing to come out of the FAA until the next reauthorization pops. I don't see. I honestly
you don't see CBOs
don't see
coming soon. You don't see FRIAs coming soon. You don't see.
Well, you can't have FRIAs without CBOs. So I have a theory that they're just going to try and ditch the CBOs. So, I mean, that's weird to me.
Well, you can have FRIAs with schools,
right? With schools and research institutes. But I mean, here's the thing: is how do we apply for that? And so, just tossing that out there. I imagine we're at a standstill until the next reauthorization. I might be wrong.
Or all of a sudden they'll surprise us all with a whole bunch of new rules one day.
Right.
Yeah, well, certainly the FAA is undergoing organizational changes.
December 29th, correct?
And it would be wise for new people in the organization to demonstrate something prior to the 2023 reauthorization. Yeah. So I hear you, Josh. I'm with you. I'm nervous about that, and maybe there's a shot at a couple of things coming along, having to do certainly with recreational as it relates to STEM.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So last but not least, is let's see, was this an NPRM, Alex?
No, I think it was a final thing, but it was just getting. But there's still like the 30-day comment period afterwards,
right?
Like how, but that's just standard.
So this is a basically a nothing burger. The FAA is changing the way that it's going to essentially accept inquiries through the UAS Support Center to a form which they will collect specific information, your email, phone number, zip code, type of flyer, whether you're recreational, commercial, so on and so forth. And the subject of the inquiry. This information will allow the UAS Support Center analysts more information to efficiently answer the respondent's specific question. The respondent's public form process starts with submitting an inquiry by using the public web form, shared email box, or by calling the UAS Support Center analyst. Once the public user submits an inquiry, they will receive an automated system email receipt that includes a reference number, the created date, a tell us about yourself, and their inquiry question. So essentially, it's just a different way of for people, the general public, to submit inquiries to the UAS.
And I looked for it, but could not find what's the
No,
service
there isn't one.
service level agreement on committed turnaround time, and I
No, there's no commitment there.
Yeah, might be in it. They might have internal metrics, but I didn't see anything that there's a commitment to the public to respond within a number of days.
Yeah, the only time requirement in here is that the estimated burden per response is 2 minutes. But is that 2 minutes within 48 hours or 2 minutes within 90 days? So no commitment.
So with the UAS Help Center, I almost always call them if I have to reach out to them because I can just get my answer right away generally, or they can just send me sometimes they'll have to email me later depending on the complexity of the question, but calling by phone is just much easier.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, just a different way of doing things. There's not a whole lot here. So, that's all I have. Alex, I know you've got some stuff going on. Do you want to talk about what you got going on?
Sure. So tomorrow at 2 p.m., I will be on the FAA's Flying for Fun is Trust a Must panel talking about the recreational UAS safety test. And so I'll be on there with Greg from Pilot Institute and Desi from Women in Drones. And so we'll be talking, and then also Kevin Morris from the FAA will be on there, and we'll be answering questions about trust. I've put in a few questions that I've gathered from different community members so that we have some of those questions to answer. We'll talk a little bit about FPV and how that relates to trust, and then a couple of other questions behind just some of the background information behind trust. So tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time at the FAA YouTube channel, and you should be able to listen in on that.
As part of the background, are you going to throw Dave under the bus for coming up with the acronym, or having a hand in the acronym?
I was like, I thought this was going to be called Rust or something, but then I heard someone call it Trust.
That's funny.
Right?
Yep.
They can't call it the Trust because that's double does, right? So
that's right. It's like,
or you can't say the Trust test.
The Trust test.
Or the La Patria.
Yeah.
Funny. All right, Dave, anything going on from a AAC or regulatory point of view?
There's a restart on Tasking Group 13. You recall with Tasking Group 13, we had an interim report back in, was it June 30, Alex? And where they're fixing to restart it. It should be interesting. My subgroup created a narrative, and then the three leaders have rewritten it and provided a new write-up, and have a 2-week turnaround to edit and then submit the document. So we'll see how that goes. On the drone safety team, we're moving forward on the UAS ASRS. Lots of people are very interested and supportive, and so we have agreed tenants. So we're now not shouting at each other, which is a good thing, and hopefully moving forward slowly on that.
Very fair.
And our colleagues in flight test are out at Oshkosh, Wisconsin, at the EAA Air Venture. So I think anyone associated with aviation is like, oh, love to go there. And so it sounds like a great event. Yeah, definitely on my bucket list. I know, Alex, I better get to it quickly. But it was
he is He is self-reporting at this point.
So it's the photos and videos coming back from Wisconsin look great. It looks like we're making good connections there, and that's the flight tests working under the heading of FDCA as well. So we expect some follow-up actions from there. And that's all I had.
Cool. Dan, you got anything for us this evening?
Not really. We already kind of touched on it. I wanted to just bring up again that the FAA was having their beyond visual line of sight ARC listening sessions, and they streamed 2 of them now on YouTube. And if you kind of want to get a idea of what the industry and the different people, the stakeholders of beyond visual line of sight think of what the ARC's recommendation was, you should check out those videos. Yeah, there's a lot of praise for it from the drone side, and then there is a lot of concern from the manned aircraft side, especially about giving way and about having ADS-B out and pretty much all the things that you would expect they would have concerns about.
All right, I will have to catch up on that myself. I will probably watch those tomorrow.
Yeah, watch it on YouTube, play it at 1.5 times speed or so, and get it done a little bit quicker.
Or two times if you're a New Yorker. Kick it up.
All right. So with that, guys, thank you for joining. Appreciate the interaction. We love hearing your questions, your responses, and just your general feedback. It's excellent. So appreciate it, guys, and we will see you in another 2 weeks. I'm trying to think of anything important. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Appreciate it, guys. Bye.
Thank you.